I'm Jessica Mitchell for IB Times TV with your midday market update, and joining me again is Jason Weisberg of Seaport Securities. Now, when I talked to you last week, you were excited to finally get into the earnings season for the fourth quarter. Now that we've heard from JPMorgan, Wells Fargo, and we heard from Goldman Sachs, Citigroup from today, what exactly have you made from these financials?
Basically the negative headwinds are really behind them now, and now they can focus actually on making profits instead of dealing with compliance issues. It looks like they can focus on profitability and not so much a defensive stance and how to preserve certain business verticals. And it looks like, all in all, the numbers so far have been really quite good.
Profit margins have been at an all-time high, but we haven't necessarily seen that reflected in revenues. When it comes to banks like JPMorgan, now that they've had all of those fines out of the way, do you think they can get back to what you were talking about and just make those revenues now?
Well, one would like to think that they can actually just focus on that, but somehow the government seems to find a way to find an additional fine, and I think that's a big question mark that looms over some of these big banks, is that if the government wants a pound of flesh, and then they decide they want 2 pounds of flesh, that's the problem with being in a regulated business, and that's some of the downside risk that someone has to consider before investing in these banks.
Now that we have heard from the majority of the big banks in the financial sector, we are going to hear from Morgan Stanley tomorrow. How do you think sentiment is right now going into those earnings?
Well, I think that Morgan Stanley, their model's a little different, not vastly, and they are in a regulated business as well, but they focus more on traditional brokerage business as opposed to a big, multinational bank with non-traditional. They don't have traditional banking as a core, whereas some of these others do, like Citibank and JPMorgan. So they don't deal with those issues that the JPMorgans of the world deal with, and I think that they probably will prove to really smash the number. I think that there might be some headway as the QE starts to end, but I think that if we see a tick up in interest rates, and I don't think we'll see that this year, the Fed, they kind of indicated it's probably 2015 that'll come. As interest rates increase, small or large, it will give a lot more earnings power to these financials, certainly some of the bigger financials, and that will only help them expand their profitability.